Hello, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. I'm Isabel Nolan, Director of Programs at Startup Canada. To begin, I would like to acknowledge the land on which I'm on today is located on the unceded and traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations, also known as Vancouver. And as we're a national organisation, I'd also like to acknowledge with respect the diverse histories and cultures of all Indigenous peoples of this land. And I encourage you to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional territory that you're residing on today. So, to our attendees, welcome, and we invite you to introduce yourselves and connect with each other in the chat. Feel free to share your name, LinkedIn, organization, maybe where you're joining from as well, and make sure that you're sending your messages to everyone in the room. A little bit about Startup Canada. We're a national nonprofit that is the gateway to Canada's entrepreneurial ecosystem. We're here to connect entrepreneurs with the community, tools, and support that they need to build a successful business in Canada. And Startup Global is one of Startup Canada's flagship programs that supports entrepreneurs looking to export and expand their businesses internationally. From webinars like this one today, in industry roundtables, and our annual pitch competition, this free program will help you build an international market entry strategy and plan. So, of course, we couldn't do any of this without our wonderful partners. So I would love to take a moment to thank our co-presenting partners, UPS and Export Development Canada, our program partner, TD Bank, our ecosystem partner, Forum for International Trade Training, also known as FIT, and our community partners, GS1 Canada, Communitech, and WeBC. And we're actually joined today by one of our co-presenting partners. We have Felipe, who is the Manager of Marketing for Small Business at UPS Canada, just to provide some opening remarks for us. So over to you, Felipe.
Thank you, Isabel. Good morning or afternoon. My name is, as Isabel said, I'm Felipe Sarique. I'm the manager for small business for UPS Canada. Thank you for having me today at the Entrepreneurs Going Global webinar. I'm glad to be here to kick off our session. I'm proud to say that we had a long-standing partnership with Startup Canada, and over the years have provided significant support to many small businesses through different practices and programs, such as exporting bootcamps, on-site event consultations, mentorship programs, and the most recent Women Exporters program. If you are considering exporting, note that you have the potential to reach new customers around the globe. There are also many benefits to exporting, including increased sales, lower production costs, and mitigating risks. When producing your product on a larger scale, this can lead to a lower unit cost. Exporting can also reduce your overall business risk if you diversify revenue streams instead of just focusing on a single market. These are just some of many benefits of reaching out to new markets. There is a whole ecosystem of organizations waiting to help you navigate shipping to new markets. At UPS, we're always available to help you navigate the complex world of exporting. As a global logistic leader throughout the years, we have gained a breadth of expertise on everything exporting, from tips on clearing customs and understanding customs forms to country-specific regulations, and the plenty of shipping options available to fit your budget. There is always a UPS professional available to help you find the best exporting shipping solutions to help your business grow. No matter the size of your business, we're always helping entrepreneurs reach their goals. We are dedicated to leveling the playing field for diverse-owned businesses and continue to champion underrepresented small businesses communities. You may also begin with a discount offer on international and domestic shipping and the support of a team of UPS ambassadors ready to get you started. One way we are championing small businesses is through the many tools we offer small businesses so they can compete with the industry giants. We focus our efforts on innovation, and because we continuously invest in the latest technology, we've developed cutting-edge software solutions that easily plug into your business. Whether it's offering reliable shipping options, industry expertise, or the many advancing tools, UPS Canada is dedicated and has made it our mission to support Canadian entrepreneurs help their businesses grow. I hope you all enjoyed today's session and we look forward to collaborating with you soon. Thank you, and back to you, Isabel.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Felipe. I appreciate it. So today's conversation, well, actually, sorry, before I move on, if there's any questions for UPS, please add them into the chat or a Q&A box, and Felipe would be happy to support or pass you on to someone who would best support your needs. Okay, so today's conversation, we're learning from two incredible entrepreneurs on how they've successfully brought their business to the international stage. So we'll be talking about navigating their export journey from market research and building out their supply chains, securing funding, and how they've ensured a sustainable growth for their or in their respective markets. We've prepared some questions for our panelists. However, if you do have a question, please write it in the Q&A box in the bottom function bar on your screen, and we'll do our best to answer it live for you. So without further ado, I'm honored to introduce our speakers for today. We have Daniel Lewis, who is the co-founder and chief executive storyteller at Tea by Daniel, and Dr. Gavin Armstrong, who is the founder and CEO of Lucky Iron Life. Welcome both.
Thank you. Hello, hello. Glad to be here.
Thank you. So I've had the pleasure of getting to speak with both of you in the past. But for anyone who has not had the pleasure of meeting with either of you and knowing about each of your stories, I'd love for you to each tell us a little bit more about your business, what's your why and your connection to the global community. Daniel, I'll pass to you first.
Sure. First off, thanks to the whole Startup Canada family for having me. I love moments like this where we get to share resources and stories to help each other out. So thank you. Tea by Daniel, we always like to say we're not a tea company. We're an experience that uses tea as a tool to connect people and to inspire people. So tea has always been a vehicle for us in our business. And my wife and I, we started this company in 2011. And we have always been focused on how can we use the beverage of tea, the stories of tea, to tell stories that inspire people. And that's what we've been doing over the last, 14 years. And the cool thing is that tea by nature is an international beverage. It's sourced globally, it's enjoyed globally. And so it makes a really cool dynamic in how we get to tell the story of tea, depending on where we sell. And that kind of ties into our global, footprint was, okay, when we told that local story, that's fun, that's cool. What's next? And then we started looking at different markets. And so in a nutshell, that's who we are. And we love tea. So if you love tea, you're on our good side.
Thanks, Daniel. And you're so right. Tea has such a pivotal role in so many people's lives. And for me, it's like let's if whether you're sad or happy or you have gossip, it's like let's put the cat on and make.
Absolutely.
Oh, I absolutely adore that. Gavin, I'd love to hear about your story and Lucky Ironfish.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's great to be here, and thank you everyone for attending. So iron deficiency is the world's largest nutritional challenge, negatively impacting the lives of over 2 billion people. So it's this massive problem around the world, and it has dire health consequences and economic consequences. And it actually is getting worse and worse each year, not better, but spending on the problem is going up and up. So we're putting more money into this problem that's getting worse. It can impact anybody, but it does predominantly impact women and children and those who have low iron diets. The main solutions right now for iron deficiency are iron supplement pills, but they can be expensive and they have some negative side effects, so they have low compliance rates. So during my PhD at the University of Guelph, I developed this, which is the Lucky Iron Fish, which is a cooking tool that adds natural and healthy iron to your meals. It can be reused every day for up to 5 years, so making it very cost effective and sustainable. And there are no negative side effects, and it doesn't change the taste, color, or smell of the food it's cooked in. We started in Cambodia. Research was using an iron disc, and though that was scientifically effective, women in the community said that looks like garbage from the side of the road. I don't want to cook with it. But we did some research and discovered that the symbol of a fish is a symbol of luck in Cambodian culture. So by shaping the disc like a fish, women wanted to use it because they thought it would bring luck to their household. And then when they felt healthier, they said, oh, it's the luck of the fish that's doing that. So we started in Cambodia, but we've now turned it into a global social enterprise, and really excited to talk about our story.
Incredible. It's such a great innovation. Thank you so much. So to both of you, before we kind of get into like the nitty-gritty pieces of bringing your businesses global. What would you say were the most valuable skills or resources that you've leveraged along going global? You know, I mean, Daniel, you said you started local, and then Gavin, you kind of went straight into Cambodia, you said. So what are some skills that you think were crucial in bringing your business to these stages, Daniel?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm going to answer this based on not necessarily that I started my business and did the right things. I actually probably went about it the wrong way, but later on learned the right way. So I'll talk from what I learned. When we were thinking about, okay, building our business and how can we sell tea and let people know about our brand, we were thinking just like, well, how cool would it be if somebody in a different country bought our tea? And I think we prepared for one or two sales, you know, just a couple sales. We weren't really thinking global. And so we went about it that way, just trying to get one or two sales. But what I later on learned is that there is a structure and a strategy and all kinds of tools and resources that you should be utilizing before even thinking about that and going global, so that you can prepare for 100, 1,000, 10,000 sales. So from that standpoint, I would say things like there's FIT first off, which they're a part of this as well. The Forum for International Trade Training. This is basically the classroom, the golden standard of expansion and expanding your business beyond borders. You get to go through these courses and tap into a community of people who have done it already, who have all the resources, tips, strategies that you need to be successful when you go into a new market. Funny enough, I'm now sitting on the board of FIT, shameless plug, but it's because the community was so vibrant and so rich in information that I could have used in the early days. That's one. There's also the Trade Accelerator program through organizations like the Toronto Region Board of Trade, where we're walking through our export plan step by step. These were, simple resources that we can just get better equipped. I think we did it wrong in the early stages, but I was really happy once we did tap into resources like the ones I just mentioned, that we were able to find traction and to make more sales and do better business across borders.
Wonderful, thank you. And yeah, shameless plug of Fit, but they are fantastic and they've been such a supporter to the Startup Global program. So I'm more than happy for you to plug them.
Thanks.
How about you in terms of like a crucial skill or resource that you think really helped you?
Yeah, and maybe just take a step back. So the Lucky Ironfish, we sell it through two different channels. We have e-commerce where it's available in 95 countries, but then we also, that's for direct to consumer, but then we also sell it in large volumes to aid organizations and NGOs. So very, very different channels, very different customers. When I started the company, I thought it would just be a Cambodian-based project. And so I was talking to Cambodian NGOs. And I actually went to a conference in the UK, talked about the data, and had a lineup of people after my talk saying, how many do you have on you? Like, I want to buy one. And actually, I have iron deficiency and I would love to use this. And so that's when I realized, so I think there's like a global demand for this product. And so that's where we created the e-commerce arm. But I had no idea how to run an e-commerce business. And so I was doing this all by myself as a PhD candidate. So I think like one of the most important skills was just being able to learn quickly, be really fluid, adaptable, think strategically. And I think the biggest mistake we've made, and I've made constantly, is I get distracted by the prospect of like the potential. So you see this massive opportunity and you think, oh, this is going to be great, but I haven't thought through, do I actually have the means to get there? And so you do have to slow down and think about what it's going to take to get to that goal. When we were selling online, we were just doing a couple dozen units a month. Like it was just basically paying for some of the bills in Cambodia. And then the BBC did an article about us. We didn't know it was coming out. It was on the Labor Day weekend, and our sales skyrocketed. Like our inbox was flooded, and people wanted to buy it all over the world. And we weren't set up for that. So we actually couldn't take advantage of that opportunity because we didn't have the inventory. So one of the lessons was like you always have to be prepared for the unexpected wins because you don't want to miss that because it's a major loss.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you so much to you both. And yeah, Gavin, as you said, like it's so easy to get excited about these new opportunities, but like getting yourself set up, and also then breaking it down step by step as well, which is what we try to do with this program and making it more of a attainable, tangible goal rather than this like big scary thing of, oh gosh, how am I going to get my product or my services to these new places? So Gavin, considering the social impact focus of Lucky Iron Life, how did you approach your market research in diverse global contexts, ensuring your solution is both effective and also culturally conscious? I know you spoke a little bit about like developing the fish element, but was there anything else in terms of your market research that you looked into?
So one of the daunting elements of iron deficiency is it's everywhere. Like it's in every country. If I say if your country has women, you probably have iron deficiency problems. It mainly is impacting women, reproductive age, pregnant women. You need iron for two, and so it's kind of hard to take a step back and say, well, where do we start? And so what we did was we actually looked at not doing a country focus, but doing an organization focus. So finding NGOs that had a commitment to improving iron in status in communities. So we found some target NGOs and then worked with them and then identified countries where they were working. It might have been where they had funding for innovation, their willing government that was more keen to do something new. Because even though this product is quite simple, it's seen as transformative and out of the box because it's not a pill, right? It's something really different. And then we work with those NGOs on doing community-based market research at the beginning. So we go into a community, we ask questions on, I mean, what's the structure in the community? Who are the elders? Who are the decision makers? What's the diet? How could we integrate this product into to something that's already exists? Because you don't want to go into somewhere and try and force behavior change, because that's just setting yourself up to fail. And one example with that is the symbol of a fish was very prominent in Cambodia, but as we scaled, it still made sense in multiple other countries, whether there was religious reasons, diet reasons. It's also just cute. But some communities, like in India, with very vegetarian populations, were just instantly against a fish because they thought it had like fish in it. And so that's why we developed the leaf. So we have the Lucky Shakti leaf or Lucky Iron leaf that we use in vegetarian communities. And so we're able to sort of adapt the shape or our training materials based on the needs of that community.
Okay, that's so interesting that you shifted to the leaf. But but that's great that you can just adjust it based on all of that research.
So we have a fish or veg option as sort of our
Yeah. Wonderful. I love that. Daniel, and then with Tea by Daniel, did you encounter any cultural nuances? I know, like you said, tea really is a universal beverage. But were there any unexpected challenges when you're bringing your tea internationally, and any sort of adaptations you had to make to your brand or product to address them?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a great question. First off, if I backtrack a little bit, I always say sometimes I'm leading international trade cohorts and facilitating. And one of the things we always try to help businesses with and entrepreneurs is saying, when you're looking at a market to expand into and to export into, especially if you choose the US is like 52 countries on its own. And so we always say or caution against words like, we ask, who's your product or your service for? And you say, anyone is already too broad. Everyone who, those words, during market research stage, you want to try to avoid those words and really find out who you're speaking to directly, pinpoint them, niche them, because for instance, how tea is enjoyed in Toronto is very different than how it's enjoyed in Texas. How it's enjoyed in Texas is very different than how it's enjoyed in New York. And so what we did was we attended some consumer-facing trade shows in the US, and then industry trade shows. The industry trade shows was to do a temperature check on the demand and what is happening from a competitive advantage in our industry, and tea in general. Buyers were there. What are they saying? What are they looking for? Is that the way that we go in? But then we also went to the consumer-facing trade shows because these are the customers. And what was really cool about that is when we started meeting the customers face-to-face at trade shows, we were getting the raw, real truth about tea and how it's perceived in wherever we were. And what happened naturally was we created pods. And these pods were people who really gravitated to our brand, and they were kind of nano influencers. We were able to pick out a few of those. So for Chicago, For example, we found this one influencer. She's from Chicago, loves tea, has her own tea community. And when I say influencer, I'm not talking about a celebrity. I'm talking about maybe they have 3,000 followers, but these followers really listen to her in this case and really care about her suggestions and things like that. So when we got those influencers that were on the ground, they became like our advocates and market research in real time. So all we did was incentivize them and listen to them to see what we needed to do in that particular place and then sell tea that way. How the Americans see and view iced tea is different than how we do. So although tea is global and international, the cultural and emotional ties are very strong. So when we were looking to exporting to the UK, completely different plan, right? And so I think one of the good ways to go about it is find influencers, create pods in different markets that you want to test, and then just listen to them. There, just be a soundboard, let them tell you what's going on, and then you can adjust your brand and your strategy accordingly.
Excellent. Yeah. Always listening to your customers and seeing what they want and what they hear. And, you know, it's such a, like I said, it is such an emotional, personal thing as well. Everyone has their own way of making their tea, regardless of where they're from. And you best make it the correct way for someone.
Yeah, exactly.
Dana, can I ask you a little bit about your like supply chain management, I guess? Any challenges that you faced in establishing your international supply chains? Like, is everything still coming from Canada, or like how do you have it set up at the moment?
Yeah, so we've had to adjust over the years. COVID really exposed a lot of our supply chain errors, I would say. We found our suppliers. And again, this was going to trade shows, finding the right suppliers, finding the right products, building those relationships. But we were kind of narrow in our approach. We had our set 2 or 3, suppliers, manufacturers of our goods, and we were cool. Things were working until they weren't. Um, you get this heavy reliance on a certain product that you have a lot of demand for, and customers are wanting it, whether it's a tea or an accessory teapot or something like that. And if anything happens with that supplier, you translating that message back to your customers now becomes this error, this setback for your business. So what we quickly realized is that, especially with COVID, we need to diversify our supply chain to hedge against any interruptions. And there was this one time where we were working with a distributor ready to take on our products, and a 2-month import got stuck at the port for 9 months. So we missed that opportunity. Almost feels like it was squandered. And so we had to say, how do we ensure this never happens again? So I have a mixture now of have some local distribution that is always, I could drive down there, I could fly there, I could get there and work out what we need to work out, and then have some strategic placed around the world manufacturers and suppliers that we can pull on in case of. But the supply chain management is something that I wish I could say I perfected, but it is always changing and always adapting. I think the best way is to stay nimble, stay open, always comparing, and making sure that you're ready for any changes that happen in the market, especially geopolitical, right? Right now, that might not have been a big deal a year or 2 ago, but now you need to have a temperature check on what's happening in that country where you're getting this produced, because it could stop like that or get really expensive. And so it's almost a chemistry test that you always have to keep a tab on.
Yeah, and I love that you said that you have to keep nimble with it, because it shouldn't necessarily be something you set up once and that's it. It's done. It's something, similar to, your export plan and all of that, or like your funding strategies. It is something that you should always be reviewing and seeing where can you make this more efficient, or adjusting. And yeah, like you said, and we can maybe get into tariffs in a little bit.
The T word.
The T word. Gavin, there's a question for you in the Q&A box that I'd love for you to answer. So I'll read it out now. It's from Melanie. She's asked, so interesting your idea working with NGO for market research. How did it work? What did those partnerships look like? And were there any challenges using this approach?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I mean communities, there's just so much nuances in the communities and trying to get this something like this used. So we work with the NGOs on first figuring out how have you what's worked well in the past. So how have you done any type of iron or nutrition intervention program? So whether it was just supplement distribution, fortification programs, education. So what we do is we first go in, we talk to the country office, and we figure out like how do they feel that we can integrate the product into how they work. And typically what will happen is the community will have some form of elder or like decision maker who it's important to get their buy-in from the beginning. So you want to explain to them what we're doing and the importance of the product, figure out what the diet is, and so what food can we add this into, or is it going to just be water? Is there a soup, a curry, like a dal, something that would be just a simple to do? And then how long do they cook it for? So you only need to boil the fish for 10 minutes. If it's something that's cooked all day, we design our training materials to say, the last 10 minutes you would put it in. And then we run and design education workshops. And so we actually get members of the community together. We talk about the importance of iron, the importance of a well-balanced diet, what iron deficiency can do. And when we talk about the signs and symptoms, you often see many people like understanding, oh, I understand how this is impacting me, or I understand how this is impacting my children. And then we talk about how to integrate it. So you want to have like the path of least resistance. And there are certain things we found out that we never would have expected. Like in one community, they wouldn't use it when it was raining. And we went back in and we asked why. And they said, well, because that might attract lightning to our house. So it was this belief that metal attracted lightning, and so you couldn't cook with it. So we adapted the material to include that. But that was something we wouldn't have considered. And so it's also making sure you're like always listening for how to adapt and figure out what's working and what's not.
You're providing such a well-rounded service as well, rather than, just selling the product as well. I love how much care and thought you're putting into everyone that's coming into contact with your product. And of course it helps you in terms of getting all this great intel and how it's being used or why it's not being used. But it's such a testament to you and your organization, like really putting that care into all the communities that you're serving with this.
Thank you.
Uh,
Well, we try to have impact in everything that we do. So it's part of our
yeah, of course, but even still, it's just like that extra mile as well, that I love. Can I ask you about your supply chain? Is there, how do you have that set up and anything that's changed?
I mean, I would echo everything Daniel said. These have been turbulent times the past couple years, and I think diversification is important. Building up inventory surpluses where you can. Obviously, there's a cost to that, and so it's all just like the economics of risk versus reward. And so, how much can we afford to keep a surplus of without it being a cost burden? And I think back, like we had the COVID lockdowns, and then there was the shipping delays caused by that. Then there was the Suez Canal blockage, and now there's tariffs, global conflict. So we manufacture in one facility currently with our one product, but then we store them in warehouses around the world, and so we build up surpluses that way. And that's just because it's made from a patented form of iron. It's electrolytic iron, which only a few foundries around the world can produce. If anything happened to that foundry, we do have a backup one lined up, and we can shift our production there. But to take advantage of volume discounts and everything, we still have everything produced in the one facility, which is absolutely a risk. But we have backup plans in case we ever need to pivot. And so it's just being, as Daniel said, like being nimble and able to pivot. I mean, my backup plans have backup plans. So it's just always having things. Yeah, just quickly execute and move. And like sometimes we have to ship units by air because our sales are exceeding our forecasts. That does impact the margins, but at least we'd rather sell something at a lower margin than nothing. So that's one of our examples of a backup plan.
Interesting.
Could I add one thing to that? You just kind of ignited something for me there, Gavin. We don't really talk about this as a strategy as much as we probably should, but I think something that has also helped us when it comes to supply chain and the up and down and unpredictability of it is honesty and building a tribe community with your customers, because that has always been the sentiment that we've intentionally tried to cultivate with our customers. We turn the tragedies into stories that our customers still want to be a part of. So we're like, our products are stuck at the seaport. We're not going to be in time for Christmas, but you know what? Here's what we're going to do. And they're kind of there for it because it's like, you've always been like that. Rather than, sending out that newsletter, sending out that message saying, unfortunately, we're so sorry. It's always been like, hey, we don't have it perfect. We're working to try and continue to give you value and give you the best service we can. But here's a hiccup that we have right now. And I think just having honesty into your supply chain plan and into your brand plan, it's all about telling stories, right? People really resonate with stories, and we're hearing storytelling a lot nowadays because it's true. And the brands that tell honest, real stories keep their customers through turbulent times. I know we didn't get to tariffs, but I mean, 2 weeks ago, we just launched a promo called T-Riffs. And it's basically, we're willing to take the break even on one of our products and absorb costs to give a break to our consumers. In the short term, we might feel it, I guess, but in the long term, our customers will look back and say, I remember when things got tough. This is what you guys did, and you adjusted to kind of make it even playing field for us, and they will respect you and stick with you. So honesty and transparency plays a big role too.
Yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. And it's, like I think that's also why, well, for me anyway, that's why I enjoy so much supporting small businesses and becoming a loyal customer of theirs, because you get that humanness to your interaction, and you're keeping that connection between you and your community and your customer base through all of this transparency and authenticity. I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but it really is so important these days, and people they'll see past you if you're not providing that to them, really.
True, 100%.
Well, since you said the T word, I think maybe let's get into it a little bit. But we can encompass it as well, because of course maybe some entrepreneurs aren't quite struggling with it, maybe, or maybe it's not applicable to them. So if so navigating export challenges in general, like tariffs, that has been, quite the topic the last couple of months. But then also in terms of customs, or international shipping regulations, how are any specific issues, first of all, that either of you are facing at the moment, and how are you navigating it? How have you overcome it? Maybe Gavin.
Gavin, you want? Yeah.
Sure. So, I mean, with tariffs, when President Trump was elected, we started hearing about it, and so we started building up surpluses in the U.S. And our strategy is hopefully ride it out, because it was our view that this is a stupid policy and hopefully won't last a long time. We did look at what it would cost to move manufacturing. It's just not worth it. So our plan was to build up enough of a surplus, and then the same time, if we do have to charge that tariff, we can't absorb the cost, but we would communicate that in the messaging and say, we want you to know this is a US government tax that is included in the price. It's not us profiteering off it. And then look at shifting to some other markets. So looking at maybe expanding into the EU a bit more. But we definitely have hit a lot of regulatory challenges over the years. Our product was once stuck in Peru for 6 months, and actually it was a very humid warehouse, and so all the units rusted. And so when we finally got the clearance for them to be removed, they were thrown out. And then something similar happened in Tanzania because we didn't have the right paperwork. We now work with the Trade Commission Service when we are going into any new country, and we have them or the services they provide make sure that we have everything ready to try and prevent this. So thankfully, since now working with the government, we haven't had anything held up in customs. So knock wood, that we seem to be okay. But I mean, the tariff thing it's very complicated. It's changing all the time. I think the one piece of advice I would give is like, pay attention to it, but don't let it stress you, because it's just constantly evolving, and you don't know what's going to happen. And so I think it's okay to have a plan and be aware, but don't let it like consume you, because it'll drive you crazy.
Yes.
Thanks, Gavin. Daniel.
Yeah, Gavin nailed it. It's so all over the place right now. But what I would say is, in this time, especially in this time, treat tariffs and all of the, HS code, treat it like a new language. Learn it. learn it, get to know it, because there are some opportunities hiding within the complications. And sometimes there's some caution points. I've seen, scenarios where people are like crying at customs offices trying to clear products and do back and forth business. And it hurts. It can be dangerous, just to your sanity with how wild it can be. But also, there can be opportunity. And right now, tea used to be free trade. There was no tariff on tea. And we'd like to believe that that's really the case. But when the US is taxing the countries where our tea are produced, well, costs are going to go up naturally. And so what we've began to do is look at what are some creative angles, or maybe tiered products, maybe a luxury segment, maybe a sustainable segment that could go to a different market. We've started to look in different markets. And again, I see this as the CEO, catch every opportunity. Right now, it seems rough, but what is happening in the EU? Are there strong ties? Are there trade agreements that exist with Canada and us? What is happening in Dubai and the luxury market? Is there anything we can do there? And it also presents great collaboration opportunities. Maybe if we collaborate, we could, lessen the blow individually as a company if we were to, strategically collaborate with another company. So it just opens up all kinds of opportunities, in my opinion, even though we're still handling the chaos. And I would say, which I love to do, is use AI. If you can't think of any ideas, create the scenario that is currently happening in your market, or in the world, through an AI prompt, and say, if you were the world's greatest supply chain manager or director or founder, how would you navigate, enter your scenario, and see what it comes up with, right? It might come up with something really cool that you never thought of. And there's a few ideas that AI has given me where I'm like, huh, okay, sounds good. So just get creative and try to ride it out for now.
Brilliant. And yeah, I think I'm embracing the AI and different tools and everything. So I love that, Daniel. Thank you so much. Gavin, you talked very briefly about working with the Trade Commissioner Service, and we do have a question in the Q&A box. So I think just in general, what was it like working with them? How did you get in contact, and what's that relationship now?
Well, I mean, TCS are fantastic. I'm one of their best advocates. I think they're one of our government's one of the best things they offer, but they do a really bad job promoting it. So I'm always trying to talk about TCS. And they're just so easy to work with. Like if you Google the TCS in the country where you're going, you get the email addresses for the industry category where you are, and you can email them and set up a meeting. And it's like they'll get one within a day. Larger countries like in India or America, there are multiple TCS offices, they're regions, but then other countries, it's just by country. It's usually in the Trade Commission building, or sometimes in the embassy or High Commission. And every time I travel, when I go to a new country, I set up a meeting with TCS, and I just introduce myself, talk about the product, say what my goals are, and see if they have any suggestions or ideas. I have a warm contact. And then if there ever is a problem, I have their card. I can WhatsApp them and say, hey, we just got a problem with the border. I need some help. And they're always like so receptive, and we pay for it with our tax dollars. So I encourage every entrepreneur to use it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Gavin.
I add something to that. I think that was so great. And it actually ties in some of who might be on this call. So I was trying to get some products over into the US for a trade show, and products were stuck. We just couldn't get clearance. The communication was all frazzled, and logistics, it was a mess. But luckily, we had very strong ties with our local Chamber of Commerce, which I think definitely should be on your team. Local chambers of commerce, just like Gavin said, everywhere he travels, he connects with the trade commissioner in that place. Trade commissioner is who we should have on our team. Chambers of commerce, because they understand that local language. So we had one Chamber of Commerce here talking to the Chamber of Commerce in LA, that then talked to their representative of UPS. And with those three talking, we were able, on the morning of, we were doing an event, it was a celebrity event in Hollywood, and it was so big. We were so excited. We were going to meet the Backstreet Boys, which was like, every kid's dream. Yeah, anyways, I won't sing on the call, but we didn't have our stuff and it was stuck. And with those people talking, which is the team, we were able to sort it out, get some things, and in the morning of, we were able to finally get our product and rush over to the venue, set up. And so I think it's so important to know who your TS, your Trade Commissioner Service rep is in your area. Talk to them, introduce yourself, and definitely it helps if you have a good export plan as a tool, so they can see, okay, you're serious, and they can understand how they can help you. Have your Chamber of Commerce, have just those chess pieces in place to help navigate the opportunities.
Yeah, have those key people as your support system, and use them, especially like with TCS, Chamber of Commerce. They're there to help folks. As I think someone said, the TCS is best kept secret in the chat as well, which I definitely agree with. Okay, so we definitely can't talk about exporting it without talking about funding your export journey. I would love to ask you both, how did you go about that? Is there any specific funding avenue you went down in order to support yourself going to these new places, or did you bootstrap? Gavin, what was your journey with that?
Yeah, so we started off with some grant funding to more support the research that we did at the beginning. So we received $500,000 from Grand Challenges Canada as part of a commercialization program. And so that was really the seed funding that started the enterprise that we have today. So a big fan of GCC, but that's much more, I think, for the health focus for global health. When we look at exporting, Can Export has been a great funding opportunity. So it's government grant that supports you moving into a new region. You can apply multiple times. It's very competitive, so get on the mailing list, and whenever the application's open, you apply. But we've used that for India, for the United States, for Guatemala. So it's a really great program. There's also local embassies and high commission offices will have CFLI, the Canadian Fund for Local Initiatives. And it's something that the embassies can fund for work on the ground within that country. So that's, for us, is very specific because we can do like health programs, donations of units, and things like that. So again, if you reach out to the TCS and say, are there funding opportunities within your embassy that we can use for this country specifically? So smaller programs.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I'd never heard of that before, so that's a fantastic resource for entrepreneurs. Daniel, how about yourself in terms of funding this?
Yeah, so some of the same that Gavin mentioned, we bootstrap. We have been like a bootstrap from the beginning, coming so really scrappy. But we did tap into government grants and even private grants from pitch competitions, and we were just trying to get funding from wherever we could. We ran a successful Kickstarter campaign, so crowdfunding was definitely a way we did it too. But I think one of the best ways tied to our export plans was because we were an e-commerce brand. Um, we're on Shopify, and they released that Shopify Capital, which was just amazing. They were giving us money, and there was a small nominal fee at that would be tagged onto the amount we were borrowing, but there was no daily interest. It was just 17% of sales coming in that was paying back over time. So we did it once, paid it back, then they increased it, we paid it back. I think we did like 4 or 5 times. So as long as you're putting it to use in a good way and it's paying back, it was one of the very efficient ways of us tapping into funding, easily accessible. It was like a few clicks on our back end, and then 2 days the money's in our account. So that was amazing for a Shopify Capital. And then BDC has been, I mean, they're our bank, the business bank, right? So what I love about BDC specifically is that they talk business, they understand vision, they understand opportunity, and as long as you have your ducks in order, and you can tell a good story backed by unit economics and what you and your team are going to do to execute against the plan, the money's there. And so those were some of the things that we utilized.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I hope there's some great resources. I know Miriam's in the back end adding these all to our chat. So thank you for taking us through those.
Also, if we're going to talk about BDC, we also have to mention EDC.
EDC too.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Both of them are really helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that plug. Yeah, EDC are fantastic. We'll also share something in the chat about them. Yeah, there's some really fantastic crown corporations, government organizations that are really out there to solely help entrepreneurs, small businesses get into other countries. So really encourage everyone to utilize them to the fullest extent that you can. Um, can we talk a little bit about you've talked, about getting into these different countries and how you've done that. Was there anything that you had to do in terms of building your brand awareness? I know, Gavin, with the specific way that you're entering these different markets, going to the NGOs, it sounds like yours is very much like conversation based and like backed by the science. But is there any other sort of brand awareness strategies that you've had to do in other scenarios for e-commerce, for example?
Yeah, so I mean the e-commerce part of our business is actually doing incredibly well right now. I'm so happy because after a decade of trying, we finally have figured it out. And it's a lot of that's being driven by TikTok actually. TikTok is our most successful channel. And it's there's those who believe they're influencers and those who have influence. And I think it's that you have to work with the right partners and make sure that look at their actual metrics. We use an agency that will kind of vet the people that we work with. Just to make sure that they're actually able to convert. But really, we have found helpful is working with healthcare practitioners and healthcare advisors and those type of people to talk about the science and the benefit of the product. And what's been great about that is the paid content that we've done has been picked up by media. And so the New York Times did an article, like I mentioned, BBC, CNN, and then that creates more organic content that then goes viral. And so we kind of plant the seed and then we get the seed, the plant grow and take it and ride that wave. And so that's been what's been driving our success on social media right now. And I'm really excited to keep growing.
Excellent, brilliant. Thank you so much. And Daniel, as we mentioned a few times, with tea being such a personal experience for people, is there anything that you felt you had to do you feel like you were shifting people's habits a little bit or building out your brand? And yeah, kind of how did you get people to switch and to be a customer of yours?
It's a great question. I think we had to do a little bit of everything because, homegrown in Canada, the story that we would tell, first off, Instagram was our platform. That was our stage. That's where we told our story. That's where we got a lot of our followers and customers from and conversions from. But the story that Canadians understand is this, this young couple who met when they were 8 years old, started at the farmers markets, and then eventually served the King of England. It was such a warm story here in Canada. And they were very whimsical. I was always wearing bow ties and dressed like Steve Urkel, and everybody got it here. But when we went to bring that same story elsewhere into a new market, US specifically, hearing that a brand started from Brampton Farmers Market doesn't hit the same. Because in Brooklyn, they don't care about Brampton's Farmers Market. So we had to then find, okay, we don't want to lose our soul or lose the essence of who we are in our origin story, but what is the more universal message of our brand? And how can we tell that and display that on social media? And so we would more focus on the impact we were trying to bring about in the world through tea. Because there are universal words like kindness, like joy, like sustainability, flavors, so we went more into those keywords because they were more widespread. And that's when we used influencers, nano influencers specifically, those little pods we talked about, to help us tell that story in the local tonality and language of wherever we were selling to. So it was kind of like we tell a story, distribute it through influencers who could then change it into their language and tell it to the consumers. That's kind of like the conduit that we were using. And like I say, you have to be a good storyteller and choose how to tell different stories. And if I could just jump over into my other business, the speaking. So Instagram was a great platform for the tea and influencer marketing. For my speaking business, which it's been doing really well, been doing a lot of international countries and things like that, LinkedIn is like gold. One post a day, a story, something of value, something 3 steps to, as long as you can every day give one piece of valuable content on LinkedIn, you build this kind of nucleus of people that are just watching and spreading your information that opens up conversations to new opportunities in new markets. So it's just finding your strategy. Could be TikTok, Instagram, social media, blogs, but those are the 2 that have worked for us.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'm curious if you were an early stage entrepreneur and you're just starting out and trying to figure out your marketing strategy, but you have maybe next to no dollars, where would you put your first effort for these sorts of things? Daniel, I'll kind of carry on from what you were saying.
Yeah, if I was like a CPG kind of product, something edible, or any type of CPG product, I would put my time into ChatGPT as my assistant because it's free and it's very useful. And I would really personalize my ChatGPT so that it's not this robotic tonality to find my brand voice. Once that feels authentic, I would then jump over to Canva, and it could assist me with my design, imagery, and look so it could polish me. And then I would do a little bit of testing as a digital strategy to find which social platform I should be spending my time on, whether that is Instagram, whether that's TikTok, whether it's Pinterest. I don't even know if that's still kind of up there with them, but I would test, and I wouldn't go all in until I know the results are YouTube, but I would use ChatGPT and Canva because they're free and they're very powerful. And then I would deploy it to one of those social media platforms. And once I get traction, I would go all in until I could build or even outsource a team from Fiverr or Upwork.
Excellent. How about you, Gavin? Anything to add to that?
I was just gonna say, Pinterest is a thing. We do well on it. It's still
Okay, good.
yeah, I agree. Different demographics are on different platforms, so understanding who your customer is and where they're getting their information. I think authenticity, as Daniel said, very important. The videos that perform really well are just handheld smartphone videos in your kitchen. You don't have to have big production studios doing them. And I mean, I do think, as we've said, the TikTok algorithm is a behemoth, and so it's doing incredibly well. All those free tools Daniel mentioned, I remember making our Twitter ads on PowerPoint. Like they were so cringe, and now
Wow.
our team is doing these beautiful things in 2 seconds online, and so I love how far the free tech has come, or even paid tech has come.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and so accessible as well, and anyone can use it. Also, I love that your point about the handheld photos, videos as well. But that goes back to that transparency, the honesty, authenticity, right? Like people just want to see realness these days. They don't want to really interact with the overly polished, I guess.
Mhm.
So we have time for one more question. And I'm just going to double check we haven't got anything in our chat from any attendees. So as we're Canadian non-for-profit, I would love to speak to both of you and ask about your experience in being Canadian anchored businesses. How has that helped you, and why do you continue to really kind of anchor yourselves within Canada? Gavin, maybe I'll pass to you first.
Sure, yeah. And actually, the fish actually is branded with a maple leaf. And so we want to be known as like the Canadian health innovation that's having an impact around the world. Especially right now, it is a good time to be a Canadian business. Canadian businesses and entrepreneurs are really respected around the world. When we look at the NGO community and the areas of global health, the Canadian government has had a feminist international assistance policy. So it's where our international development has had a female lens or a women's health lens to it, and a gender equality lens to it. And that has been just really made tremendous inroads in countries, and the impact that's had has been fantastic. And so I think continuing to build upon the support that the Canadian government has with its international development policy and strategy has been really beneficial for us, but also really impactful. And then as a company, when we're in Europe, we have lots of people in the EU saying, "Why aren't you selling here more? Why are shipping costs so high? You should have a fulfillment center here." So there is this desire for Canadian-owned businesses and buying Canadian, supporting Canadian. So right now, especially, I think it's really impactful.
Well, thank you, Gavin and Daniel.
Yeah, Canada is a brand. Canada is a brand that represents trust, reliability, and kindness. And we just lean into that. Anywhere we go, and especially now that, I mean, it's been so much in the media, people are getting to know what Canada's all about. And the cool thing is that even though Canada is this brand that represents this one, this heavy kindness and community and togetherness, Canada is so diverse. Every nationality makes up Canada and lives in Canada. So we lean into that as well. You can go walk through a street and find any nationality in Canada. That's who we are. So that opens up markets in and of itself. And we just embrace what Canada already is. And having any badge of honor, we just rebranded our logo to add the Canadian maple leaf. So it was so cool to see that with Gavin, because why? And maybe I do feel a little bit bad that, we're born in Canada, started in Canada, and we never saw it fit to have the Canadian maple leaf, and edged on a little bit about, what's going on. It felt like the next right step to say, hey, wait a minute, we are 100% Canadian, and I want to show that brand, not just in, a maple leaf or a logo, but in kindness and in community and diversity. So yeah, we're all about using the Canada brand right now.
Love that. And I love what you kind of said, like what that the Canadian brand represents. And there is such a wonderful camaraderie to come out of all of the chaos that's going on at the moment. Really, there is such a wonderful camaraderie that's kind of bringing everyone closer together. And the world is definitely seeing that.
Love
Okay.
it.
Absolutely. That is it. That's all the time we have for today. These things always go super quick, but we packed in so much. Daniel, Gavin, thank you so much again for joining us today for today's conversation. As always, it's a pleasure, and you brought such great energy. So thank you so much for showing up.
Thank you.
To our attendees, whether you're here today or if you're watching this on YouTube at a later date, thank you so much for also spending your time with us as well. One big thank you again to our co-presenting partners UPS and Export Development Canada, and a big shout out to Felipe as well for joining us at the beginning of our session. Program partner TD Bank, our ecosystem partner Forum for International Trade Training, and our community partners GS1 Canada, Communitech, and WeBC. If you enjoyed today's webinar, we are hosting our next one, which is all about setting up your shop from local to global. So that will be taking place July 17th. We'll drop a link in the chat to let you register. And we have a quick feedback poll up on the screen as well. So please give us your feedback and let us know how you enjoyed today's conversation. Thank you again, Daniel, Gavin. You're free to enjoy the rest of your day, as are the rest of our attendees. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks for having us. Take care.